In Activity 11, The Moon Rises and Sets, students come to understand the daily motion of the moon by observing its path over the course of a school day. They discover that the moon appears to move across the sky just as the sun does, and then learn what causes moonrise and moonset. You will need the following materials from the kit: Activity Sheet 11, Parts A and B, a black marker, and masking tape. You will also need to provide crayons or colored pencils, day sky and night sky charts from Activity 10, and a timer or clock. To prepare for Session 1, make a copy of Activity Sheet 11, Part A for each student. Conduct this session on a clear morning, 7 to 10 days after the full moon. Locate a window from which the moon is visible during the day and place a roll of masking tape and a marker on the windowsill. Hang a sign above the window that says, "Moon Watch Today." Each team of 2 will need a box of crayons or colored pencils. You will need a timer or clock, a roll of tape, and a marker. To begin Session 1, remind students that in Activities 9 and 10, they observe the sun changing position in the sky. Review that the sun does not really move. In fact, the Earth is moving and we move with it. Have students refer to the day sky and night sky charts and ask, what other objects can we see in the sky in the daytime? If needed, guide students to recall that the moon is sometimes seen in the sky during the day. Ask, does the moon move across the sky as the sun does? Students may or may not have noticed this phenomenon. Have students gather around the window and tell them to find the moon in the sky. Have a student mark the position of the moon with a piece of tape on the window. Use the marker to write the time on the piece of tape. Put another piece of tape on the floor to mark the observation spot. Then distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 11, Part A, to each student, and a box of crayons or colored pencils to each team of 2. Guide students to record the moon sighting by drawing an X in the window on their sheets. After 30 minutes, have another volunteer take a second sighting and note the location of the moon with a piece of tape on the window. Repeat this exercise 3 or 4 more times over the next 2 to 3 hours. Each time, have students record the location of the moon on their activity sheets. To conclude Session 1, after 5 or 6 readings, collect the boxes of crayons and return the tape to the kit. Leave the tape marks on the window, but discard the observation spot tape. Collect student activity sheets for use in Session 2. To prepare for Session 2, make a copy of Activity Sheet 11, Part B for each student. Students will also need Part A from Session 1. Clear an area in the classroom where students can role-play the rotation of Earth. Each team of 2 will need a box of crayons or colored pencils. You will need a roll of masking tape. To begin Session 2, redistribute student copies of Activity Sheet 11, Part A. After the last moon sighting has been completed, ask students to observe the pattern of the tape pieces on the window and on their activity sheets. Ask students, what do the positions of the tape marks tell you about the moon? The moon moves across the sky over the course of the day. Have students complete questions 2 on Part A of the activity sheet. Then, review what is meant by the words straight and curved, and note that the student's line is curved. Ask students, how will the moon move next? Students should be able to predict the movement based on previous sightings. Using masking tape, mark several students' predictions on the window. Then make one more observation and compare it with students' predictions. Ask students, what do you think would happen if we kept watching to see where the moon moved for the rest of the day? Students should conclude that eventually the moon would get so low in the sky they would no longer be able to see it. Elicit that it would set just as the sun sets. Distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 11, Part B to each student and a box of crayons or colored pencils to each team of 2, and help students complete the sheet. Have students recall that the turning of the Earth causes both the sun and the moon to appear to move across the sky. Next, have students work in groups of 3 to model moonrise and moonset. Have one student play the part of the sun, one student play the part of the Earth, and the third student play the part of the moon. Have the student playing the sun stand a distance away from the students playing Earth and moon. Then have the student playing the moon stand between the students playing the sun and Earth, but off to one side. Instruct Earth to begin slowly turning around in place to simulate the rotation of Earth on its axis. Ask students what happens every time Earth turns around. Guide students to understand that both the moon and sun disappear from sight, then reappear again. This occurs because Earth is turning. Have students switch roles so that all students have an opportunity to observe this. Review with students that, like the sun, moonrise, and moonset, are caused by the turning of the Earth, not by the movement of the moon. Tell students that in Activity 12, Moon Phases, they are going to find out about another way the moon changes from one day to the next. To conclude Session 2, remove the sign and tape marks from the window. Return the marker and roll of tape to the kit. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.